Si-Eun is a super smart kid, the smartest in his whole grade. He loves to study so much that during breaks he puts on his headphones and gets lost in his books. One day, the teacher gave him a prize for winning the school math competition. Another boy named Yangbin also got a prize, but Si-Eun wasn't sure why. It turned out Yangbin was a bully. During break, he picked on another student, telling him he'd never amount to anything. Then, Yangbin threw a shoe at Si-Eun. Si-Eun wasn't scared though. He told Yangbin to watch it. Even though Si-Eun didn't have many friends, he wouldn't let someone be mean. Yangbin stared him down, but Si-Eun stood his ground, ready to fight back. Suddenly, a bunch of high school baseball players burst into the classroom looking for someone named Suho. They woke up Suho, who was napping, and started attacking him because he talked to their captain's girlfriend. But Suho was like a superhero. He fought them off even though there were more of them. When the scared baseball players ran away, Suho noticed he'd knocked Si-Eun's stuff on the floor. He apologized and picked it all up for him. The next morning, Si-Eun looked in his locker and couldn't find his gym clothes. He suspected that Yangbin had taken them. Without his clothes, he had to pick some old ones from the lost and found, and they didn't match. During gym class, Si-Eun ended up being the last one to finish running, and some bullies started to make fun of him because of his performance and clothes. Just then, Suho stepped in. He pulled off his shoe and threw it at the main bully, telling him to fetch it. The bullies, knowing that Suho was much stronger, stopped making fun and walked away. Later in the locker room, Si-Eun saw the bullies again. He asked them nicely to leave him alone. Instead of listening, they cornered him, and one of them was about to hit him. But just then, a teacher walked into the room. The bullies stopped, and Yangbin quickly said they were all just playing around as friends. Si-Eun, feeling trapped, had to agree, even though he was really scared. That night, Suho accidentally knocked on Si-Eun's door while delivering pizzas. He asked for water and ended up drinking the whole bottle. The next morning, a new student named Beam-Soo arrived. Yangbin tried to be friends with him, but Si-Eun didn't trust him. Just then, Suho woke up from his nap and told them to be quiet. Later, the bullies went to a club and met a mysterious guy named Sukdae who seemed to be related to Yangbin. They talked about drugs, and Yangbin, wanting to hurt Si-Eun, asked what would happen if someone touched them. Sukdae said it would make you dizzy and throw up. That same day, some people stopped Si-Eun on the street and tried to give him drugs, but Si-Eun almost fought them back. The mysterious guy stopped them, telling them Si-Eun wasn't the right person. Back at school, Yangbin spoke with the new student and shared a secret Beam-Soo had been bullied at his old school. Yangbin threatened to tell everyone unless Beam-Soo helped him cheat on a test. Later, Beam-Soo secretly put a drug on Si-Eun's neck without him noticing. Soon after, Si-Eun started feeling dizzy and had to run to the bathroom to throw up. He found the drug on his neck, took it off, and tried to feel better. In class, the teacher went over the correct answers for the test, and Si-Eun realized he hadn't done well at all. He felt something strange was definitely going on. That incident made him furious. Rising from his chair, Si-Eun clenched a pen in his hand and stormed toward Yangbin. Without hesitation, he launched a brutal attack, striking Yangbin repeatedly. In the chaos, he also turned on Yangbin's friend, stabbing him with the pen. The classroom was silent, with no one brave enough to intervene. Si-Eun's rage didn't stop there. He grabbed a curtain, wrapping it around Yangbin's head, and then picked up a textbook, using it to hit him over and over. By the time he was done, Yangbin's nose was broken, blood streaming down his face. Just as Si-Eun was about to escalate the violence further, Suho stepped in. "That's enough," he said firmly, trying to hold Si-Eun back. But Si-Eun, his blood still boiling, turned his fury towards Suho, attacking him as well. Suho responded with a quick punch, enough to push Si-Eun back but not enough to calm him down. If anything, it only made Si-Eun more enraged. The escalating fight in the classroom was abruptly interrupted when the teacher entered, seeing the chaos. Immediately, Yangbin, injured and bleeding, was rushed to the hospital. Recognizing the severity of the situation, one of the teachers escorted Si-Eun to the hospital as well, to address the aftermath of his actions. At the hospital, Yangbin's mother confronted Si-Eun, demanding to speak with his mother. Si-Eun responded quietly that he didn't have a mother. Despite the tension, he told her that her son had been bullying him and that the assault was a consequence of her son's actions. To support his claim, Si-Eun showed her the drug he had found on his neck and then proceeded to empty Yangbin's backpack onto the hospital bed, revealing a full packet of drugs. Faced with this unexpected evidence, Yangbin's mother decided against taking legal action against Si-Eun. Back at school, however, trouble continued to brew for Si-Eun. Some of Yangbin's friends cornered him, threatening to fight him after class. Unwilling to wait, Si-Eun challenged them to confront him right away and led them to the bathroom. He locked the door, ensuring no one else could enter, and faced the two bullies alone. With a calculated move, Si-Eun pulled out his pen and started clicking it continuously. He remembered Pavlov's famous experiment with conditioned responses and used the clicking sound, which the bullies had associated with the previous day's pain, to intimidate them. The psychological ploy worked perfectly. The bullies were visibly shaken and backed down. After the confrontation, Si-Eun walked back through the school corridors. Other students, curious about the outcome, asked him if he had beaten up the bullies. Instead of a direct answer, Si-Eun responded with a thought-provoking question, leaving them to wonder about what had actually transpired in the bathroom. After facing off with Yangbin's friends in the bathroom, one of the bullies, who actually cared about Si-Eun, chose not to fight. This allowed Si-Eun to simply walk away, leaving the confrontation behind him without further violence. Meanwhile, the situation was evolving elsewhere. At the hospital, Yangbin, nursing his injuries, had visitors. Among them was his older cousin, Suk-dae. During the visit, Yangbin, frustrated and seeking revenge, whispered a proposition to Suk-dae, offering him money to retaliate against Si-Eun on his behalf. Si-Eun bumped into Suho outside of school later that day. During their brief encounter, Suho casually suggested that they should grab some food together sometime, hinting at a budding friendship or at least a truce between them. Si-Eun, surprised but open to the idea, agreed. The next morning, Si-Eun arrived early at school, only to find that he wasn't the first one there. To his surprise, Suho was already in the classroom, asleep at one of the desks. It turned out that Suho had started working a night job, and sometimes he came straight to school from work when it was too late to go home first. Later that day, during lunch in the cafeteria, Si-Eun and Suho sat down to eat together. As they shared a meal, Suho opened up more about his life, explaining that he liked to sleep in the cafeteria because it was quiet and he could rest undisturbed after his night shifts. This moment of sharing personal stories marked a significant step in their developing friendship, allowing Si-Eun to see a different side of Suho beyond the tough exterior. Suho knows that if he goes home after his night shift, he'll be too tired to wake up for morning classes, so he chooses to sleep at school instead. Meanwhile, Suk-dae is caught in a shady situation where he's forcing a young boy to sign for a loan from his boss because he's lost money gambling online. During this, Suk-dae's cousin approaches him with urgency, declaring that today is the day they need to take action. After school, as Si-Eun is leaving, Suk-dae and his group confront him outside the school gates. Suk-dae coldly informs Si-Eun that the assault isn't personal, but merely business. He then slaps Si-Eun and forcibly takes him away. This incident is witnessed by Bam-soo, who rushes back to the classroom to wake up Suho. He tells Suho that Si-Eun needs help. Initially, Suho refuses, stating that it's not his responsibility and he has to head to work. However, Bam-soo offers to pay him double his daily wage if he assists. Liking the sound of this offer, Suho agrees and quickly follows Bam-soo. Suk-dae, along with Yangbin and their group, takes Si-Eun to a secluded spot. Yangbin starts lecturing Si-Eun, telling him he should never have messed with him. While Yangbin is talking, Si-Eun is silently assessing the situation, trying to strategize for what seems like an inevitable fight. He notes that two guys to his left seem ready to jump in, along with another named Ben, but Si-Eun plans to use his surroundings to his advantage. Suddenly, Si-Eun snaps into action. He lunges at Suk-dae with his pen, but it's a trick. He uses his other hand to punch Suk-dae and throws dirt in the other guy's eyes. Si-Eun almost had it. The bullies saw his tricks and backed down. But then, the big guy, Suk-dae, jumped back in and slammed Si-Eun hard. Yangbin and his friends finally had their chance and started kicking Si-Eun. Just in the nick of time, Suho appeared like a superhero and punched the bullies again. Suho helped Si-Eun up, but the fight wasn't over. Suho and Suk-dae went toe-to-toe in a fierce brawl, while Yangbin and his goons attacked Si-Eun again. This time, they took him down and were about to hurt him really bad when Beam-soo, the new student, showed up out of nowhere and tackled Yangbin. This gave Si-Eun's friends the upper hand. Suho knew they won and told Suk-dae to quit. Suk-dae agreed and walked away, leaving a grumpy Yangbin behind. Suho, ever the boss, told his new classmates to follow him for some food. They had no idea what they were in for. Suho took them to his work, a store, and made them do chores. He said they made him late, so now they had to make it up to him. But hey, at least they got some food after cleaning up. For the first time ever, Si-Eun felt like he had real friends. He was so tired from the whole day, he couldn't even stay up late to study like he usually did. Meanwhile, Suk-dae was in big trouble with his boss, Gil-soo. Gil-soo beat Suk-dae up so bad he even broke his arm. Yang-bin visited his cousin in the hospital, where Gil-soo blamed him for everything that happened to Suk-dae. At the same time, Si-Eun was buying an umbrella when he saw a girl from a rival group shoplifting lipstick. He decided to ignore it, but then the girl spotted him and pretended to be his girlfriend to avoid getting caught by the store clerk. She even followed him outside, forcing him to share his umbrella and then dinner because she hated eating alone. The next day at school, Yang-bin showed up with his friends looking all sorry. He claimed he was in big trouble with the law because of the drugs, and begged Si-Eun and Beam-soo to lie and say there never were any drugs. He even got on his knees. Suho thought it was a terrible act, but Si-Eun and Beam-soo felt bad for him and decided to help. Big mistake. Yang-bin led them straight into a trap. Gil-soo and his crew were waiting for them. Gil-soo blamed the boys for breaking Suk-dae's arm and demanded money to keep them alive. He gave them 3 days to come up with the cash and even offered a loan if they didn't have it. Over the next few days, Gil-soo's guys followed them everywhere. Si-Eun knew they had to get out of this mess. He secretly met with the girl from the rival group. He needed her help to take down Gil-soo. He asked her if paying Gil-soo would make him go away. She said no, and that gave Si-Eun an idea. He figured out that Gil-soo ran a fake online gambling website. It tricked people into signing up and losing all their money. The girl, E, could help by taking pictures of Gil-soo's secret files. The next day, the boys met at school and knew today was the day Gil-soo would come for his money. Beam-soo even sold a valuable watch to pay him off. But Si-Eun and Suho had another plan, to call the police and expose Gil-soo's scam website. The only problem was, the pictures E took weren't enough proof. The good guys had a plan. They figured the best way to catch Gil-soo was to lead him right to the police. Outside school, they spotted Gil-soo waiting. Suho, ever the leader, sent the others back to call the cops. He pretended to have no money but offered Gil-soo a deal. Suho, a popular student, could convince his classmates to play Gil-soo's rigged gambling games, making him even richer. It was a risky move, but Suho needed to stall. Gil-soo bought it and took Suho in his car. Si-Eun knew this wasn't good. He worried for his friend and luckily had a hunch where Suho might be taken. Beam-soo, also scared for Suho, got a taxi to follow the bad guy's car, even offering them money to let Suho go. Meanwhile, E from the rival group had a change of heart. She didn't want to be a bad guy anymore and convinced Suk-dae to help them. Suho, smart as ever, recorded the whole conversation with Gil-soo on his smartwatch, but Gil-soo wasn't an idiot. He beat Suho up as soon as they reached his hideout. At the same time, Beam-soo arrived with the money, hoping to buy Suho's freedom, but Gil-soo was greedy. He took the cash and forced Beam-soo inside another car with his men. They emptied the place and drove off. Just minutes later, Si-Eun arrived with the police, but it was too late. The cops wouldn't go in without a warrant, leaving Si-Eun frustrated. He snuck in anyway, finding the place empty and only bloodstains on the floor. With no evidence, Si-Eun felt helpless. Meanwhile, Gil-soo called Suk-dae to another location. Suk-dae agreed, but told E and the others to stay put. He even gave E his debit card before leaving alone. E, not trusting him completely, downloaded a location-sharing app and followed Suk-dae. She wouldn't let him face danger by himself. At the new hideout, Gil-soo beat Suk-dae with a metal pipe, furious that he was useless. He even forced a young boy, who owed him money, to take the blame for stabbing Suho and Beam-soo. Just as Gil-soo was about to stab them, Suk-dae, in a surprising turn of events, jumped in and stopped him. It seemed Suk-dae wasn't so bad after all. A fierce fight broke out with Suk-dae and Gil-soo going head-to-head, but Gil-soo overpowered Suk-dae and pinned him down. Just then, E smashed a vase over Gil-soo's head, grabbed his knife, and threatened him. Even though Gil-soo wasn't scared, he managed to get the knife back. Si-Eun arrived just in time and distracted Gil-soo, allowing him to untie Suho and Beam-soo. The bad guys ran, thinking they heard police sirens. It turned out to be Si-Eun's phone playing a siren sound, a clever trick that even fooled his friends. A big brawl ensued. In the chaos, E grabbed Suk-dae and they escaped while everyone was distracted. The good guys thought they had won, but then they bumped right into real police officers and had to run the other way. Suho and Si-Eun fought bravely, but there were too many bad guys. Si-Eun, not as skilled as Suho, got beat up pretty bad. Luckily, the cops showed up and stopped the fight. Gil-soo wasn't ready to give up, though. He shoved one of his guys at the police and bolted. Si-Eun wasn't going to let him escape. He chased Gil-soo all the way to the docks, where a guy named Sen tried to stop him. But Gil-soo was a tough fighter and beat Sen up too. Even Suho joined the fight, but Gil-soo still held his own. Finally, all the good guys teamed up and Suho landed a kick that knocked Gil-soo out. Meanwhile, Suk-dae locked E and another boy in a room and told them to run. He knew he had to do the right thing, so he turned himself in. Everyone ended up at the police station. A bodyguard showed up and told Si-Eun he was free to go, but had to keep everything a secret. Then he took Beam-suk to a room with Gil-soo. Beam-suk's dad, a powerful congressman who talked about helping young people, wanted Beam-suk to beat Gil-soo up. But Beam-suk couldn't do it, he wasn't like that. The guard stopped Gil-soo from attacking and Beam-suk just walked out. Suho was in the hospital, so Si-Eun went to visit him. He also brought E along to introduce them. He even bought them both food. Si-Eun was finally starting to feel like he had real friends. Beam-suk's situation wasn't so great. He went home to his dad, a congressman who preached about helping young people. But at home, it was a different story. Beam-suk's dad blamed him for everything and beat him with a golf club. The next day at school, Beam-suk felt important for the first time. Kids were talking about him. Things seemed to be going well. He even planned to hang out with his new friends later. But then, Beam-suk saw Suho posting pictures with E on social media, and he wasn't even following Beam-suk back. Beam-suk felt left out. When they met for drinks, Si-Eun joined Suho and E, leaving Beam-suk waiting in line for their smoothies. As Beam-suk watched them laugh together, he felt like a stranger, completely alone. The fun wasn't over. The good guys decided to unwind with some karaoke. Beam-suk, ever the nervous one, went to grab drinks. But guess who he saw? His old bullies from his previous school. Terrified, he hid in a bathroom stall. The bullies searched for him but gave up. Back with his friends, Beam-suk freaked out when he realized he'd missed a call from one of them. He yelled at her, but Suho pushed him back and told him to calm down. E, fed up with the drama, left, with Suho following to calm her down. Si-Eun, the most understanding of the group, stayed with Beam-suk to figure out what was wrong. Just then, Beam-suk's bullies found him again, ready to cause trouble. But Si-Eun stepped up, confidently telling them to leave. The bullies, surprised by his bravery, backed down. The next day at school, Beam-suk was on edge. He saw some guys laughing and thought they were mocking him. He angrily confronted one of them, scaring the poor guy. Si-Eun tried to reason with him, but Beam-suk was out of control. Suho intervened, pulling him away, but Beam-suk snapped. He yelled at Suho, fed up with being treated like a child. Things got worse over the weekend. Beam-suk was bombarded with calls from his bullies. Suho and Si-Eun visited him, concerned about his silence. Suho even complimented Beam-suk's family photo. But Beam-suk dropped a bombshell. That wasn't his real family. His congressman father adopted him to improve his image. Si-Eun noticed how withdrawn Beam-suk had become. He finally asked him about the guys from karaoke, and Beam-suk confessed. The bullies were his old tormentors, and they made his life miserable at his previous school. Beam-suk was hurting, and Suho thought he could fix it. Suho suggested they make Beam-suk's bullies apologize to him. The bullies weren't happy about it, but Suho wasn't giving them a choice. They mumbled an apology, but Beam-suk wasn't buying it. He slapped the bully. A fight almost broke out, and Beam-suk stormed off, angry at everyone. He finally exploded at Suho. Beam-suk felt like Suho was always looking down on him, treating him like a kid. Suho, frustrated too, shoved Beam-suk back. Words flew and their friendship crumbled. Si-Eun tried to calm them down, but it was too late. Beam-suk walked away, leaving Si-Eun chasing after him while Suho watched them go. Beam-suk just wanted to be alone, but trouble found him anyway. His old bullies showed up, but this time they were outnumbered by bullies from Beam-suk's current school. These new bullies wanted revenge and Beam-suk's money. They took everyone to a garage and beat up Beam-suk's old bullies. Feeling powerful for the first time, Beam-suk lashed out at his old tormentor. The new bullies were impressed. They offered Beam-suk a drink, took him clubbing, and even made him pay for the alcohol. Beam-suk was fitting in, or at least that's what he thought. He blocked Suho on social media, partied with his new friends, and even tried to chat up some girls. The next day, Beam-suk was a wreck. He sat with the bullies at lunch, ignoring Si-Eun's pleas to talk. Beam-suk just couldn't stand Suho's know-it-all attitude. Suho overheard their conversation and looked hurt, but Beam-suk didn't care. He walked away again. That night, Beam-suk was out with the bullies again. They introduced him to a tough guy training for UFC. Meanwhile, Si-Eun was with Suho, who was working a night shift. They both noticed Beam-suk's behavior, but Suho thought it was best to let him be with his new crowd. Beam-suk was lost, and his friends were worried, but no one knew how to reach him. Beam-suk dove headfirst into his new life with the bullies. He even moved his seat to be closer to them in class. Si-Eun, worried about his friend, tried to warn the bullies to lay off Beam-suk, but they insisted Beam-suk enjoyed their company and was happy to pay for everything. Suho, ever calm, told Si-Eun to let Beam-suk find his own way. Things got tense in the cafeteria when the bullies cut the line. Suho, always the defender of what's right, demanded they get back in line. The bullies hesitated, unsure how to act. Suho grabbed one and shoved him to the floor, forcing him to mop with his body. The rest of the bullies scurried back in line except Beam-suk, who tried to act tough. Suho warned him, but Beam-suk stubbornly refused. With a shove, Suho sent him to the back of the line. Later that day, fuming about Suho, Beam-suk hatched a plan with his new friends to hurt him. They arranged a meeting with a guy named Kong, a rival Suho had beaten in a cage fight years ago. Kong was eager for revenge and readily agreed to fight Suho for money. Beam-suk, oblivious to the danger he was putting Suho in, felt triumphant. Meanwhile, unaware of the plot against him, Suho was making a pizza delivery. The bullies had tampered with his motorcycle brakes, causing him to get into an accident. The next day, Beam-suk couldn't help but stare at Suho in class, suspicion lingering in the air. Suho stared back, likely suspecting Beam-suk's involvement in the accident. At Suho's house, Si-Eun and were busy decorating for his birthday party. Meanwhile, Beam-suk called Kong, urging him to attack Suho. Beam-suk then messaged asking her to keep everything a secret from Suho about a gift he was getting him. Trusting Beam-suk, agreed to meet him, but little did she know, she was walking right into a trap set to lure Suho into danger. Beam-suk sent a trap for Suho. Suho received a message from Beam-suk, asking him to go to a warehouse to pick up Not wanting to ruin Suho's birthday, Si-Eun decided to take care of things himself. He hid Suho's phone and went to the warehouse instead. Si-Eun, remembering a history lesson about Spartans, used a narrow passage and a wrench to fight off the bullies and escape with But then Kong showed up and beat him badly. Yangan, filled with rage, wanted to hurt Si-Eun even more, but Beam-suk stopped him. He only wanted Suho to get hurt. Ignoring Beam-suk's pleas, Yangan beat Si-Eun with a pipe. Outside, Kong demanded payment from Beam-suk even though he hadn't fought Suho. The police arrived just then, and the bullies ran away. Si-Eun was taken to the ambulance but refused to tell the police anything, claiming it was just an accident. Suho, worried sick because he couldn't reach Si-Eun, found and learned something wasn't right. He then confronted the bullies, who pretended to be clueless at first. Suho, not buying their act, slapped them to refresh their memory. Later, he cornered them on the rooftop and forced them to confess everything, including their role in his scooter accident. Suho also visited and Si-Eun in the hospital. Si-Eun tried to hide his injuries, but Suho already knew everything. Beam-suk's life was going from bad to worse. His father, a powerful congressman, had beaten him up again, pushing Beam-suk to run away. A bodyguard managed to snap a photo of the taxi Beam-suk escaped in. During his ride, Beam-suk received a troubling photo showing the bullies he used to command, now bruised and kneeling in front of Suho. Fearing the escalating situation, Beam-suk contacted Kong, offering him more money to take down Suho. He also called Si-Eun, concerned about Suho seeking revenge on his group. At the gym, Suho faced everyone with determination. He began by confronting Beam-suk directly, expressing his disdain with a firm punch. Kong was eager to fight Suho in the ring immediately, but Suho took his time, using the others as a warm-up, showcasing his impressive fighting skills. When Suho finally stepped into the ring, Kong announced that this was his chance for revenge. The fight was broadcast live, and Suho quickly took control, dominating despite Kong's attempts to target his already injured leg. Just as Suho seemed about to secure victory by knocking Kong down, a bully tripped him. This allowed Kong to land a harsh kick to Suho's face, knocking him unconscious. Seeing Suho down, a vengeful Beam-suk entered the ring. Suho, barely conscious, muttered that Beam-suk had become a monster. Misinterpreting this as weakness, Beam-suk and the other bullies brutally kicked Suho while he was down. When they realized Suho wasn't breathing, panic ensued. Most bullies fled, but 2 were caught by the congressman's bodyguards. The bodyguards reassured them, promising that the congressman would take care of everything. As Beam-suk was led away by the bodyguards, he started crying, overwhelmed by the consequences of his actions. Meanwhile, Si-Eun, who had been looking for Suho at their usual hangout, found nothing but emptiness. Back at the gym, one of the congressman's bodyguards ordered Kong to delete the fight video and coached the captured bullies on what to say to protect Beam-suk. At home, the congressman delivered a chilling ultimatum to Beam-suk. He was sent off to the Philippines with a stern warning to disappear and never mention their relationship again. Alone and frightened, Beam-suk was left to deal with the weight of his isolation and the fear of his father's threats. The next day, Si-Eun arrived at school and noticed that Suho wasn't in his usual sleeping spot. Concerned, he tried to call and text him, but there was no response. Feeling worried, Si-Eun hurried to the hospital and found Suho in a coma. He learned that an unknown person was covering the medical bills for Suho. Feeling sad and overwhelmed by the situation, Si-Eun confided in his friend E. He expressed his need to do something about what had happened, but also shared his fear of losing their budding friendship. Determined to not let Suho suffer in vain, Si-Eun decided it was time to act. He first tracked down young Ben, a nerdy bully involved in setting up the gym fight. Si-Eun confronted Ben at his new school. It wasn't a friendly visit. Si-Eun was there on a mission. He managed to get what he needed, a video of the gym fight saved on Ben's phone, before leaving Ben with a warning, making sure Ben understood the consequences of crossing him again. Next, Si-Eun targeted Kong, the fighter who had knocked Suho out. Remembering the boxing techniques Suho had taught him, Si-Eun caught Kong by surprise and managed to hold his own in a fight. He cleverly tricked Kong into injuring himself with a dumbbell. Watching Kong in pain, Si-Eun felt a surge of anger but also recalled something Suho might have said about violence not being the solution. Contemplating this, Si-Eun decided to walk away instead of continuing the fight. Meanwhile, the congressman, the puppet master behind the chaos, was scrambling to manage the fallout. He staged a public farewell for Beam-suk at his old school, pretending everything was normal. But Beam-suk exploded in anger. Back at school, Si-Eun found Beam-suk sitting alone, looking defeated and resigned to his harsh new reality. Filled with anger, Si-Eun stormed in, ready to confront him. However, seeing Beam-suk as a shattered version of his former self, Si-Eun realized that seeking revenge would solve nothing. Beam-suk had already lost everything. There was nothing more to take from him. With a heavy heart, Si-Eun walked away from the confrontation. Outside, overwhelmed by his emotions, Si-Eun punched a school window, letting out a scream of frustration. All he wanted was for Suho to wake up and be okay. His anger and helplessness echoed in the hallway as he struggled. Thankfully, Suho was alive. He was in the hospital, but he was getting better. Si-Eun, however, wasn't so lucky. The congressman used his power to make sure no school in the city would accept Si-Eun. There was only one option left, a rough school far away. It wasn't ideal, but Si-Eun had faced worse. As he entered his new class, a bully approached, trying to act tough. Si-Eun, hardened by his experiences, gripped his pen, ready for anything. But this story is far from over. A mysterious tattooed man received a picture of Si-Eun. This wasn't good news. Who was this guy? And what did he want with Si-Eun? Will Si-Eun find peace at his new school, or will he be pulled back into a world of violence? This ends our chapter, but the story is far from finished. This tale of trust, betrayal, and making up is only starting. Si-Eun, the very smart yet troubled kid, is now at the center of our story. He is trying to deal with the difficulties of a new school that has many challenges and possible enemies. As he enters this new place, Si-Eun uses his smarts and bravery to face anyone who tries to bring him down. Meanwhile, Suho is getting better, which brings a bit of hope. This could lead to new friendships and fixing old ones. But the hurt from past betrayals is still there, making everyone wonder who they can really trust and what true friendship costs. As Beam-suk deals with his own problems, the story continues to unfold. Are you curious to see what happens next? Subscribe and follow along as Si-Eun deals with his new school, and find out if Suho can get past the hurt caused by beam suck. This story is about more than just fights. It's about the choices people make, the results of those choices, and finding strength inside yourself. So click that subscribe button, stay tuned, and join us for more drama, action, and maybe even a bit of hope.